Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, gators.
I thought you were supposed to do it like this or something. They will have most of the talking because I wasn't around when a lot of this was going on.
Oh, I thought you were going to say because we talk all the time.
No, I was trying to be nice.
Yeah, what happened?
Not honest. I'd just be nice.
We can't talk about your life. First daughter, number one daughter. Sorry.
Ooh.
yeah, wow.
Sherry Ann Stoyer, and now Patterson. I'm the daughter of Ann and Glenn Stoyer, our mom and dad.
Donna Stoyer. What?
Tim Stoyer. I'm the youngest. And our oldest brother's not here.
Yes.
Right. His name's Barry, and you'll hear a lot about him.
Oh, boy.
Okay. Do you want me to speak for Barry?
Sure.
Okay. We don't know. But since our one grandfather was from Wales, there is a little town in Wales nearby where he came from called Barry. So we figured it might be from that.
The older brother's first name is probably from there.
Yeah. And then his middle name is Glenn from my dad. Our dad.
And my middle name is Ann, which is my mother's first name. Sherry. Just a good choice. Go ahead.
And, well, as we found out later, my mom told us some stories that probably were not true. But she said that they combined her mother's name, Dolly, with my dad's name, Susanna, and came up with Donna, D-O-N-N-A. First part of Dolly and the last part of Susanna.
And I was supposed to be a Scot, but these two didn't like that name. So they picked out Tim. But when my mom first told them they were going to have another child, she gave them the option. She said, "You want a pony or a baby brother?" And that one picked a pony.
What?
So that's the story that I had.
So his name could have been Trigger,
Yeah.
but we wound up with Tim.
They didn't like Timothy, so it's just Tim.
Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. You need the year?
No, we're not doing
Want
that.
my ID?
It starts with a 1-9.
Oh, yeah.
That'll cover all of us.
But, yeah,
Our older brother Barry is 5 years older than me, so he was the firstborn.
and he was in Sharon.
He was in Sharon, Pennsylvania. I'm sorry, Greenville, Pennsylvania.
Oh.
I was born in Pittsburgh.
Yeah, we were all born in Pittsburgh. Tim, we called him Timmy. Or Timbo.
Yeah,
But he doesn't
my
like either
uncle
of those.
insisted on Timbo.
And you did.
No, I did not.
She'll deny it, but she was called Muscles.
You can move on.
Oh my gosh, the only thing, because we were such angels, me and Donna, the only thing I can remember was going up to the playground, which was probably a quarter mile from our house. The two of us went up there and we were supposed to be waiting in the backyard because our mother liked to cut and perm our hair, and that was supposed to be happening that day. And we roamed off to the playground. And I think that was the first and only spanking we ever got in our life was when we got back.
And we were like 5 and 3. Right?
Yeah, so it was
Yeah.
one whack, big deal. But that was the spanking for us.
Yeah.
Now the older brother probably has 6 different things he can tell you, and he got whacked regularly.
It was so bad, so bad. Yes, we'll tell you his stories.
Yeah.
Go
Oh,
ahead.
you want one of Barry's?
Yeah.
Oh, well, actually, the permanent was one thing because he was supposed to go to the store and buy the permanent stuff.
right.
You remember
Yeah.
that?
Mhm.
Oh. And he didn't come back, and he didn't come back, and Mom's waiting and waiting and waiting. Finally, about dinner time, he shows up with the perm stuff, and she goes, "Where have you been?" And I don't know where he said he was. He was just messing around
You
at the
never
creek
know.
or something. I don't know. But anyway, she chased him through the house with a pancake turner, trying to spank him, which she did regularly.
Yes, that was an up and down. Had the carpet worn out. So it was actually his fault that we got a spanking for being
Yes.
at the playground because she
Right.
was already mad about him
Right.
not coming back.
If he'd have been on time,
Thank
we
you.
would never have
I love you,
gone.
Barry.
I skipped school for a week and went to the beach and went surfing every day. And on the last day, they decided to call my house and see if I was really sick, and nobody was there. And I think that last morning, I called from Daytona Beach, and the only place that had phones, we didn't have cell phones then, was a payphone on the corner of US 1. And just as I'm talking to the school explaining that I won't be in because I'm sick, somebody drives by and honks a horn and yells at us. So I don't think that helped. But yeah, on Monday morning I got called to the office. Me and the 2 other guys, we went to the beach. And when I get down there, they're all sitting there. And the assistant principal takes me in first. And he says, "So I understand you skipped school all week? A whole week?" Yeah, I did. And he said, Stoyer. And he's looking around. He goes, "You're no relation to Sherry and Donna Stoyer, are you?" Because they went to the same high school previously, and he was their teacher. And I said, "Yeah, that's my sisters." Oh, they were great students.
See?
They were some of my favorites. And he goes, "What happened to you?" And I said, "Well, I don't know." I said, "We were all just talking about it and we got carried away and that was it." He said, "Okay," but he said, "You're going to have to get the paddle that's hanging on the wall back there with the holes in it." So he said, "Take that chair and turn it around and hold on to the seat." And I did, and he walks up beside me and he said, "When I hit this chair with this paddle, you better yell really loud." And I said, "Okay." And he whacked the top of that chair and I yelled. And when I came out, I was holding my rear end. And them other 2 guys were looking at me, and I said, "Oh man, I'll never do this again." And I walked on by and then I started laughing and they both got it. I mean, he let them have it. So actually those 2 saved me from that one. So that's probably the worst thing I ever did.
You're welcome.
Should we tell the story about Barry putting Dad down the trapdoor?
Sure, go ahead.
Oh,
Okay, so Barry and his buddy are in the top floor of the barn that we had, and they're back there smoking corn silk. So my dad looks out the door from the house and he sees smoke coming from the barn. So he goes flying down the path to the barn, and Barry sees him coming, so he opens the trap door, which is right inside the entry door. And my dad comes flying in the door, right down into the bottom of the barn. He got his arms caught on the trap door. It was horrible. So Barry he got in a lot of trouble that time too.
that was one thing.
Oh yeah, yeah, one of many.
Chris sent you this one. He said, "Uncle Barry," he said, "we know you got into a lot of trouble. What was the worst thing you got into trouble for? Was it the
Probably
week?"
setting the barn on fire.
Yeah, that was a good one.
I didn't smoking. And when I remember when I went into the kitchen and Mom was there and I was smoking balloon sticks and she said, "Oh, go show your dad. He'll love it." And I went in and Dad was taking a shower and he threw the curtain over and wham, knocked me all the way down the hall.
No.
He slapped the hell out of me.
Oh, no.
Yeah, he did. Yep. And I was not smoking cigarettes. I was smoking balloon sticks.
And then you decided, well, if you're going to get hit for balloon sticks, you might as well do cigarettes, huh?
There you go.
And
And
Mom,
I enjoyed many years of smoking cigarettes too.
And you and Charlie, I think, were smoking corn silk down in the barn.
Oh yeah, we put it on the fireplace so it'd dry out in the fireplace out back, and then we'd roll it in newspaper, and then put Scotch tape on there to hold us close.
and Mom dragged it through the manure one time, didn't she? And put it back where it was.
Oh
And up at Grandma, she smoked those big Tobies that grew on her tree, those long.
yeah. Now those things that knock you out. If you inhaled it, you'd pass out.
Oh, my God.
Oh.
Tell Sherry and Tim about the weasel story.
Oh, Jesus.
Come on.
Well, I know Tim he was just a baby, if he was even born yet, but Sherry probably remembers when the weasel was in the barn down below where we kept the horses,
Yeah.
and the weasel was in a terracotta tile. They had like two great big openings in this big block of tile, and that's what the barn was built out of. So I saw it when I went in the barn. I saw this weasel head sticking out one end of the barn and the block. So I went to grab him, and he took off running down inside these blocks. So I went in the house and got a big hammer and busted out all the block down below. And when Dad got home, there was about 25 feet of smashed block on the inside. Oh, jeez.
Did you ever catch that weasel?
No, I never did, but Bobby Riley, he brought his dad's rear machine gun from an airplane
Oh, my God.
during World War II. He brought it up there to the barn, and we were going to fire it, but we couldn't find any ammunition.
Oh, my gosh.
I went in the house and got a box of 22 shells, and we wrapped tinfoil around the bullets and stuck them in the chamber. And then we took a spike and a hammer and hit the end of the shell to fire them. And we were shooting at stuff down there in the dam. We had this machine gun that weighed almost 80 pounds. Man, it was a heavy one. Oh, jeez. Oh, man.
Oh, my
Yeah. We had a blast.
What about you, Donna? Is there anything you got in trouble for?
Oh, no. Mm-mm, nothing.
Yes, you did.
No, I
Wait a
didn't.
minute.
Just
Come
because I
on.
was with you. You told me to go to the playground.
Oh, well.
Yeah. Other than that.
Barry.
Always Barry. Always Barry.
He's not trying to be bad. He just has a good imagination. Neatest. Oh
He
my
had-
gosh. If you
and-
wanted to go in his room or his car, you had to take your shoes off, show that your hands were washed, and don't touch anything. Just get in.
He had white carpet in his house. Me?
What?
Well, you were little. You had toys all over the place. No, I can't say any of us
Oh.
were actually terribly messy because we were.
Her parents were pretty strict.
Yeah, we were taught to clean everything up after yourselves. Now, you could go to somebody else's house and be messy.
Unless you took the top off the pressure cooker.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that made a big mess. Yeah, okay, you were the messiest. You win. Tim took the top
Yeah.
off the pressure cooker while it was
Oh,
cooking
right.
and shot dinner all over the ceiling of the kitchen.
Excuse
I thought the steam would come out faster if you took that little weight off of there, so I reached over the stove and flipped that thing, and there's spaghetti all over the ceiling and everywhere else. So.
Dad did a lot of woodworking.
And welding
Welding,
stuff, yeah.
That's his job too. And then Mom Mom did everything.
She did a lot of
sewed and
crafts
knitted
and stuff. They were always having bazaars at the church, and she made dollhouse furniture out of everybody's empty thread spools and little pieces of. She never bought things that she had to put together. She just got people to give her their scrap stuff, and she made beautiful things out of them. So she was pretty talented. They were both very talented.
A lot of times our Christmas presents were things that she'd found in the trash.
Yeah.
You know, somebody else's trash, and she took it home and fixed it. I don't know where she was hiding all that stuff, but
I don't know.
yeah. Oh, that's a good story. Do you know the one?
You tell it. No, I don't know the beginning of it, but go ahead.
Oh, okay. Yeah, Mom was vacationing at a little summer area called Slippery Rock up in Pennsylvania. And Dad was working there. And Mom kept seeing him walk by all the time. Oh, I should show you the picture.
Yeah. Well, show them the picture of Dad, and they'll know why she was watching him walk
okay.
by.
He kept walking by, you know, and she'd see him, and she wanted to meet him. So she climbed up in a tree and pretended that she was stuck. And when he came by, she says, can you help me get down? I'm stuck. She was real sporty, very athletic.
Very athletic, yeah.
She could have gotten down
Yeah.
by herself, no problem. But yeah, so that's how they met. Yeah. And then he would ride his bicycle. What would you say?
Right.
60 miles?
Must have been 60 miles.
Yeah.
He lived in Greenville, and she was in Pittsburgh. But he said he used to ride his bicycle from Greenville to Pittsburgh just to see her. He'd get there in the afternoon, and then he'd have to head back and be riding in the dark on the way home.
Yeah.
That was a long way.
Yeah, it was great. They were.
Because
They
it
were
wasn't
very
any
happy.
3 speeds or anything bicycle. It was just a bicycle.
So my mom wanted a picture window in the kitchen, and Dad kept saying, "Oh, I'll get to it. I'll get to it." He was, God bless him, very busy guy, working hard. So anyway, she got tired of waiting for him, so she took a sledgehammer and knocked a big hole in the wall. When he came home, she said, "Now you got to do it." So that's how
She ended up
got
with a
the
picture window.
Mhm. Yeah, she knocked a big hole.
I just imagine like a single
Oh, no.
sledgehammer hole.
No, she took
No.
out the whole thing.
My dad told me one time, and I still have this wood propeller that's about this big, and it had an old clock in the middle of it, and he used to have that hanging on the wall, and he told me that that was from World War I, and that the little nicks where the rivets were timing button things, so that the machine gun was mounted on the front and it was timed to the propeller so that it only shot when the blade went by. And for the longest time, I told everybody at school I had this propeller from 1940 something, and it had bullet nicks on it, and it came off of some famous airplane that was in the war. Well, come to find out later on, my dad was a welder in Pittsburgh, and the company he worked for got a contract to make airboats, and they were doing all the welding and stuff on these steel-bottomed airboats, and then the engines came in with the cage on them and the propellers and all that stuff already on it, and they mounted them on there. Well, about halfway into the contract, the company went belly up, and the welding company went ahead and finished the ones that they had and sold them to try to gain some of their money back. And then he told the employees, he said, "We have all these spare parts. If anybody wants any of those, help yourself." And he took a propeller. So I had a guy come up to the house one time we were having a garage sale, and he had a business card, and he hands it to me, and he says, "If you ever see anybody with propellers, that's what I'm in." He said, "I'm in that business collecting." I said, "I have one." And he said, "Can I see it?" I said, "Well, I'm not selling it." I said, "It's a famous one." And he said, "Well, I'd just like to see it." He said, "It might be very rare." I went and got it, and he's looking at that thing, and he's kind of puzzled, and I'm telling him this whole story about the machine gun and all that. And he said, "What?" And I said, "Yeah." And He said, okay, well, I appreciate you showing it to me. And he turned around and walked away. And I thought, oh, I don't know if he's really interested in it or not. But the whole story, he knew it was off an airboat and it wasn't anything. It was off a famous airplane. So I still have it, but I just laugh every time I see it because I told everybody I knew I had that thing. And it was really rare.
Very rare.
And our mother told us all, we've all found
Right.
out, that we all had like 1/8 Indian blood. Nope.
They've been
We've-
checking. There
We've
isn't any.
done the 23andMe and the Ancestry and all that. We cannot find any Native American blood in our line. So what I think is we were just maybe whining one day or something about like going to the dentist and so she told us, oh, you have to be brave because you're from
Indians.
Native Americans, yes.
Although she did tell me that to verify that we were had Indian blood, she had no hair on her legs. She said Indians do not have hair on their legs. Look, I don't have any hair on my legs. So I don't know if she was secretly shaving it off or what.
Probably.
But she didn't have any hair. I absolutely adored them. They were fun and funny and imaginative. We always had little projects that they were doing and we got involved in. They made sure that we went to Sunday school. They were just two great parents. I'm very lucky.
Yeah, me too. Dad was very kind and gentle, for just a real gentleman, and mom was the force behind
was Mom.
everything.
Yeah.
She organized all the picnics and the parties and the vacations and all of that, right? And set the boundaries. Dad was a pushover. He looked at it,
Really?
right?
I knew which one to ask.
Yeah, really.
Yeah. So yes, yeah, they were great. Never heard them argue, not one time. Never heard a curse word from either of them. It was great. We were very fortunate.
Yeah, I only remember one time he yelled at me.
Oh.
He told me we had this utility room and he had put this pipe up there where he could do pull-ups or something, and I was doing it and he was trying to get in this utility room to do something. And he said, get down from there. And I said, I'm almost done. He said, get down from there. I said, okay. And I said, get down. And I got down and I'm standing there and he's getting out whatever it is and he goes, now you can go back to what you were doing.
Somebody yelled at Tim?
Yeah.
Wow.
I can't believe it.
That's why I said
know.
it was
Wow.
the one time there.
Nobody ever yelled at
And
Tim.
then I think he was just kidding, so
Probably.
he scared me to death.
Tim only knew our one grandmother, and I only knew our one grandmother. But Barry knew everybody. This was our grandmother's mother, and she was Anna Packer Morris. And this was the five generation. Well, actually, we're not sure exactly which one this was with the Bunsen.
No, we're not.
Yeah, but this was Anna, and then this was our grandmother Dolly, and then this was our mom. And we assume this must have been either Anna's mother or one of the other grandmothers. So that was.
So that's the women on Mom's side.
Yeah, this was her mother, but she died quite young, and we don't know a whole lot about her. Barry knew her.
None of us knew her, but Barry did. Yeah.
That was Dolly.
Her name is Dolly.
Mom's dad here. This was Dolly and Frank married. He was the one who owned the welding company.
Oh.
Yeah. Oh, you know much of?
Well, it's Uncle Bill.
No,
He's asking about her parents.
This is Frank. This is World War I.
Oh, okay. I was thinking
Yeah,
that was
where the
Bill.
airplane propeller came from.
Yeah, he looks so much
World
like
War
him.
I know
Okay,
he
go
does,
ahead.
doesn't he? Exactly.
Sorry.
Yeah. It's okay. That was Frank. He was in World War One. Not quite sure where he went. We have his discharge papers, but it said he was a clerk. But the unit assignment was the cavalry. And then this was his dad. This was Lewis, A or C. There were a lot of Lewises. This was Lewis A.
A, B, or C,
A,
which
or-
one?
He died when he was 96. Yeah, and that was Frank's father.
And he bowled a perfect game of bowling 2 weeks before he died. So at the age of 96, I
As
thought
the
that was pretty
story goes.
impressive.
This was Lewis A. with his wife, Jessie. That was her. And this was back in early 1900s
Oh, yes.
or late 1800s.
Yeah.
These look like pictures you'd see at Cracker Barrel.
Yeah.
Yes, it does.
And then this was our grandfather here and his youngest brother,
That one has
another Lewis. Oh, yeah, this was
1902.
1902. So this other one had to be 1800s.
Mm-hmm.
And this was all the boys as they got older. There were 4 boys in the family, no girls. These 2 were spouses of 2 of the boys.
And luckily for us, our mother took the time to put things on the backs of all these pictures. So that helps a lot.
Yeah.
Oh,
So
that could be advice for our future.
Oh, yeah. Well, they're not making pictures.
I know, that's true.
This was Tim in what my grandfather had built and patented what they called a jumper. It was like a hickory board, something very springy. Anyway, attached to the wall. You put the baby in it. I think he had a bicycle seat in the bottom of it and this little harness, and the baby would
Looks like a parachute.
sit up
thing, yeah.
and if you could adjust it so their feet would touch the floor, just like they have now, except they have them in plastic. And
But this had about an 8-foot arm stuck out
Right.
from
And it
the
was
wall,
swing.
and it goes back and forth this way. So as you're jumping, you can go on a big circle.
He was all over the living room. So the jumper got handed down from
we all used it.
everybody. All of us were in it at one time or another.
And I still have the model. It's
Yeah.
about this big, but it's all to scale.
The girl in the center is our grandmother. This was Dad's mother. And those are 2 of her sisters. She had 2 more sisters.
Mm-hmm.
And this was her father. And he was a school teacher in Pennsylvania, taught in a 1-room school. Used to drive her to school in a buckboard in the mornings. And this was his wife, but we can't figure out which wife it is. Whether it's my grandmother's mother or whether it's her stepmother, but one of his wives passed away and early in life, and then he married this lady. This was our grandmother's house.
Which we all loved.
Yes, we all stayed there, and Tim got scared there.
And that was in Greenville.
And then this was our grandmother as we remember her. She was always cooking in the kitchen. She made what a wonderful cook.
Best pancakes in
Yeah.
the world.
Cookie jar was always
Biscuits.
And she in her
They're still
house,
trying to get in.
she had a clothes chute that went from the top floor into the basement, and it was a metal box about that big around that went straight down all 3 stories, and it had a little door to it, a little wooden door. Well, Barry and his cousin Roy used to take my other younger cousins and throw them down the clothes chute.
They ended up in a basket. They weren't being mean. Everybody was having fun.
Well, it was hot going down there, though. A metal box, burn your arms. And then that was our dad's mother and father. And we don't know a whole lot about him. He left
He
when
traveled a lot, and he ended up living in Jacksonville, Florida for quite a while.
yeah, he was a carpenter. We know that. And that was his Stoyers bicycle shop. And you could get your car painted
$5.
and stored all winter for $5.
Wasn't it a...
And then that was our grandfather and grandmother. And this was our grandmother and her mother. And as I understand it from grandmother, her mother-in-law was a socialist because she used to come around to everybody's house, all of her children's houses. And if one of them had like 4 pillowcases, and the other one only had 2. She would take one and we'll give it to the others. So she was not very popular with my grandmother. And this was my dad's brothers and sisters.
Yeah, there were 8 kids.
Yeah, and Dad was the youngest. You knew all these people, right?
So he has the knee socks on. He wasn't old enough to have long pants yet.
And then this was all of them as adults. Yes. Oh, this is the one-room schoolhouse where my great-grandfather used to teach. So we have a picture. There's also a tree in the yard of this schoolhouse, and it says one of the original Johnny Appleseed apple trees. And nobody else believes it.
No.
But there's an article here that tells about our grandmother's father and his teaching and he later went into the insurance industry, but that was him. And then this was my dad's family. I know they're a motley crew.
I'm still thinking about Johnny Appleseed. Most of the people watching this video probably don't
Don't know
know
who
Johnny
that is.
Appleseed
You guys
is.
know who Johnny Appleseed
Right.
is, don't you?
I
See?
know who Johnny Appleseed is.
Okay.
Yeah, okay, all right. See, we're good. This picture is my dad and his next brother and his sister, the youngest 3. So the letter was written by Aunt Helen here. I see who's out there. Hi, Sawyer. Hi, Sawyer. How you doing? Oh, give me a hug. Oh, boy. Oh. What you got there?
Hi.
Oh, Roblox.
Hey, buddy.
They don't know who I am because I live out of state.
Okay, so this was what our aunt wrote about our dad. It was a sunny Saturday afternoon in midwinter with the snow just right for sledding. So I and 2 of my brothers, Wayne and Ray, begged our mother to let us go sled riding on Aunt Nora's hill. After a moment's thought, she said we could go if we took the baby with us. We readily agreed to this, threw on our wraps, and hurried out to the garage to fasten the baby's sleigh box onto Old Greenie, one of our 2 sleds. While our mother wrapped Glenn, the baby, in a cocoon of blankets. Wayne was 10 years old, I was 6. Ray was 4, and Glenn was about 17 months. As we set off for the hill, our mother must have sighed with relief. Our 4 other siblings had already left the house for various destinations, and now her 4 younger children were leaving the house too. She would have that rare thing, peace and quiet, for perhaps a couple of hours, but it wasn't to be. When we reached the top of Aunt Nora's busy hill, Wayne would grip both sides of the sleigh box firmly, give a little run, and jump on the back of Old Greenie. Then he would steer the sled by dragging one foot in the snow from time to time. Wayne was very good at these maneuvers, but he tried it once too often. As he jumped on, his feet slipped, and he went sprawling in the snow. We watched in horror as Glenn went sailing down the hill all by himself. Aunt Nora's hill was a great place to sled ride, but it had one drawback. There was a stream not far from the bottom of the hill. In summer, it didn't amount to much, but this winter it had filled almost to the top of its banks. Old Greenie headed straight for the stream, flew out over the bank, landed in the water with a great splash, and immediately started to sink. In the meantime, Wayne had jumped to his feet and was running down the hill as fast as he could go. When he got to the stream, he jumped right in, followed by a couple of the other big boys. After some frantic jockeying, they got a good grip on the sled and wrestled it out on the beach. Wayne snatched the baby and ran up the hill and over to Aunt Nora's house. Ray and I went huffing and puffing along far behind. When we got to the house, we found she had covered her dining room table with a thick blanket, stripped off Glenn's wet, icy blankets and clothing, and was vigorously toweling him off from head to toe, while our cousins, Ruth and Gladys, warmed another blanket to wrap him in. Throughout this entire ordeal, I didn't hear a peep out of Glenn except for some little gasping noises. He was a tough little rascal, and now at age 73, he still is. She wrote that for his birthday. We were lucky our dad lived through all that.
Really. It sounded just like that happened more than once.
Yeah. Could
Similar things. Poor guy.
Barry.
Well, he's the only one that's not here. No, I don't. I wouldn't say insane.
How are you feeling?
On the brink.
Go crazy.
Yeah,
Yeah, can we
not
name
that we
you?
know of anyway.
Anyone famous?
Oh, well,
Okay.
I keep making up famous people and trying to hook us together. Famous people from history, and so far I haven't been successful. So we decided that our famous person was going to be our mother's brother, our uncle. He ran for state senate at one point. He was not a senator eventually, but we felt that was close enough. This is a picture of him and our Aunt Marie and their first son, Tommy, or cousin Tommy. And Tommy passed away. He was a fighter pilot in Vietnam, and he came home. He was a prisoner of war for a while, came home, but he ended up dying after he got back. So they had two more sons. But Uncle Bill was quite a character. Put himself through college to get his degree to be an attorney, which he became an attorney for quite a while. Then he became a judge. He was circuit court judge for quite a while. He wore the judge's robe with a Hawaiian shirt and a pair of shorts underneath it and walked around in flip-flops all the time. And he drove a car that was probably 20 years old and looked like it would be falling apart, but it didn't. It got him back and forth to work all the time because that's what he liked. So I think he was really a good guy because he did what he wanted to, dressed the way he wanted to, drove what he wanted to, didn't care what anybody else thought about him. Everybody in the neighborhood loved him, and he would have all the kids in their costumes at Halloween come into his living room, and he had a movie camera set up, and he would take pictures of all the kids' costumes and have them do something that was related to their costume. He had, I think, 6 televisions lined up in there. They were only this big, but they were on top of each other, and he would watch all 6 sports things that were going on at the same time, and he knew everything that was happening. I don't know how he kept up with all of it. When our family first moved down to Florida from Pennsylvania, we lived with our aunt and uncle for maybe, a month?
Mm-hmm.
About a month while our parents were finding a house. So we had 5 of us, and 5 of
6
them,
of us.
plus her mother lived there. This was in a 3-bedroom, 1-bath house with a little tiny kitchen. And recently, our Aunt Marie is still with us. And when I talked to her at one point, there's a lot of things she can't remember, but she brought it up about being all of us in the house. That was something that she thought was really great, and what a good time she had having everybody in there. We were crammed in, sleeping on the floors and things, but to her that was a super thing. So Uncle Bill's not with us anymore, but we loved him a lot.
And our mom used to tell us when they were little kids, he was her little brother. She said that it was during the Depression, so they had like a nickel between them. They would
Oh,
go
right.
to the movie theater,
Yeah.
and she'd make them stand outside and cry until they let them in. She only had a nickel, she could get in.
Yeah. And one of her other stories about them was they would go down to the train along where the railroad came through. And that was the time when they were using coal in the engines and had somebody shoveling coal to make their train go. So they would run down there and yell everything bad they could think of at the guy in the coal car, and he would throw coal at them, and then they would go out and gather it up into a bucket and take it home to use in their furnace. And knowing them, they didn't know any cuss words. I'm sure that whatever they were yelling, the coal guy was just being kind. I think he really enjoyed it probably and thought it was funny. And so he was throwing coal out that they could take home for heat. Do you know who the $6 million man is? Don't Donna says, don't tell that one. Do you remember who the $6 million? They had a TV program about it, but there is a real person that they titled the $6 million man. And I was working on it at an Air Force base out in California, where they used to test the jets. Okay, and they had one of the little test cars that just looks like the cab of a jet. And his name was Bruce, and I'm so sorry I can't remember his last name. But he got into a really bad accident testing one, and he had a lot of bionics actually in him. And he came into, well, I was working on the space shuttle program, so I was there waiting for a landing. And when we had the landing, he came over and sat down with us while we were guiding it in and so forth. So I thought that was pretty cool. So he had a patch over one eye and bionic things in his arms and legs. I just thought that was cool. But I thought it was very nice of him to come and spend some time with us. That's the only famous person I can remember meeting. Actually famous.
Yes.
Oh, I can
My
tell
mom
you.
and Dad.
I can tell you a story about this picture.
Oh, tell me.
Well, here's Donna. She wanted to show
Oh, dear.
her beautiful self.
No, she did not.
Yes, she did. But Barry, the oldest brother, lives over in Johnson City. And they go to a steakhouse that has pictures on the walls of kids dressed up in cowboy hats and stuff. So his wife was telling me how much they enjoyed eating in there, and she said, yeah, Barry looks at those pictures all the time because he said some of them look like you kids when you all were kids. So I got this picture out and called the guys that managed the restaurant and sent this to them in a frame. And I said, would you please put this in booth blah, blah, blah. And my brother, who is in the pictures, comes in for dinner all the time. So then I called Barry and I said, I want a $25 or $30 dinner at blah, blah restaurant, and we don't have one in my town. So your restaurant is going to honor it if you can be down there by such and such a time on Saturday. So they went down there for dinner, and this picture is sitting in their booth up against the wall there. And Barry said that we sat there and ate and everything, and I was looking at all the pictures again, and he said, this picture looks really familiar. These kids look just like us. And the manager came out and told him that, oh yeah, that is you. You're a star for being in here, and we thought you were really good looking, so we put you on the wall. So he and Georgia finished their dinner, and he said he had all the people around there looking at him because they overheard the conversation about him being in the picture on the wall. So he said, I just wiped my mouth off and stood up, and I said, yeah, that's not really us. But I honestly do like that picture. So he reached over and took it off the wall and carried it out with him, and everybody's going, stealing the picture. But he was laughing because he said, you got me really good. That's the first time that you got me really good. And I said, well, just plan on a few more.
Yeah, so
This is Barry.
Oh, right.
my older brother Barry was
Always Barry.
always buying and selling cars constantly and fixing them up. And I probably owned 4 or 5 of them that he bought. And one time he bought probably about a 22-foot cabin cruiser boat, a wood one. And he fixed this whole thing up and redid the seats in it and everything. And then he told my dad and I, he said, let's go up to the St. Johns River, put the boat in, and we'll drive up. There was a humongous lake up there called Lake George. And he said, we'll spend the night on the boat. And he said, I have all these old sea rations, and they were in like army green cans with whatever was in it stamped on the top. And he hadn't been in the service in I don't know how many years. So we take this boat up there, and he's got this little camping stove, and we're heating these cans of sea rations and stuff, and it's nice out, and you can see gators swimming by you while you're up there. And then at night you could shine. We had one flashlight with us. You could shine it out there and see their eyes glowing all over the place. So by the time it got to be pretty late, probably 10, 11 o'clock, and we decided to go to sleep, the passenger seat over here and the driver's seat over here had facing seats, and they folded out. So they folded those two out. My dad was sleeping on this side, and my brother was sleeping on that side. And they brought an air mattress, like a raft, and they blew it up and put it between the seats, and they said, "You sleep right here." And I said, "Okay." And then somewhere around, I think it was 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, I just happened to move, and my hand went splash. And I woke up, and I thought, well, that's odd. And I picked my hand up, and there's water running all the... And I look, and I'm floating. And I reached over and told my dad, I said, "There's water in the boat." And he sat up, and he looked for a minute, and there's water everywhere. I mean, this thing's probably a foot deep in water already. And he goes, "Barry, we're sinking." And my brother said, "What?" And he raised up and hit his head on the steering wheel. And he had this big old lump on the steering wheel, and he's holding his head, and we're full of water. And he said, "Forget about your head." He said, "We're sinking." And he said, "If we go down, we're not going to make it to the bank." So Barry said, "Well, let me get the thing started up." And he said, "We'll try to tip it up and get most of the water in the back." And he started these bilge pumps, and there was shooting out water like a garden hose on both sides. And we started to go, but it was so foggy you couldn't see anything around you. All we could see was one buoy light down at the mouth of the river. So he said, "We're going to head for that light right there." And my brother says, "You go up," and there was this chrome railing around the front of the boat. He says, "You go up and lay down, hold on to that, put your head down near the water, and tell me to go right or left, because I can't see where I'm going." And I looked at my dad, and my dad said, "It's our only choice," or something. So here I go. So I'm hanging off with my head right above the water, thinking I'm alligator bait if this thing stops. And I've got the one flashlight. I'm trying to look, and I'm telling him, "Go left, go left." Well, we get up near there, and you can't see the buoy light anymore because the fog is so heavy. And I said, "Go left." And he's turning. I said, "Go more left because I can see trees." I said, "Go left, go left, go left." He said, "You've told me to go left. We're going in a circle." And I said, "I see trees everywhere." And we've still got all this water in the boat. So by this time, it's 5 o'clock, 5:30. My dad said, "Let's just stop and bail water with what we've got. And hopefully the sun will come up and the fog will lift, and we can see where we're going." So we're all constantly just sitting here doing this for hours, and I thought my arms were going to fall off. The fog lifted, and it turned out we were in this cove off to the side of the river, and we were only probably 30 feet from shore, but there was gators in there, so there was no chance we were going to make it to the bank if we went. So he finally, when this fog lifted, he finally started it, and we found our way, and we got it all the way back, pulled it out with the trailer, and it still got probably half a foot of water in the whole boat. And he took it back to his house, drained all the water out, put the plugs and stuff back in it, put a garden hose in the boat, and let it run for about 24 hours, and filled that boat up with water, and it didn't leak a drop. So we have no idea where, and he's looking at that. My dad come over and looked at that boat, and it's sitting there on the trailer full of water, and there's not a drop coming out of there. And he said, "Barry, I don't know about this thing." He said, "I don't know about this boat. I don't think I'd go back in it." And so he drained the water out and sold it in about 2 days. And I don't know what happened to the boat after that, but that was a scary moment. I didn't think we were going to make it out of there.
But you did,
Oh,
and we're
yeah,
so
we did.
glad.
Oh, yeah. He had all kinds of strange cars. He'd buy anything that was weird. He bought something called an amphicar
Yeah.
that had propellers in the back. And the first time he brought it over, we were looking at it in the driveway, and he said, let's go for a ride. So we rode up, and there was a small lake in Orlando where we were living. And he drove up, and he says, here we go. And I'm sitting in the back seat, and he went down that ramp at about 15 miles an hour, and water rolls up over the hood onto the windshield, and it was a convertible. So we had no top up. And that thing came up like that. And everybody that was around from the boat ramp all thought somebody drove their car
Right.
into the lake.
This guy's committing suicide.
Yeah.
They called the ambulance.
And
the
he'd start
ambulance
that
got
thing
there.
up, and it'd move like that, and all you could see was headlights right above the water line. He had a hearse, an ambulance.
He was in love with a 57 Chevy Bel Air black convertible with the red seats in it. My father bought one, and Barry bought a green Plymouth convertible about the same year. And he talked my dad into trading cars with him. So my dad put a smoke bomb in the Chevy and agreed to trade cars with Barry. And Barry was so excited, and he went out and started the car up, and the smoke bomb blew up underneath the hood, and there was smoke rolling out. He's jumping all around on the driveway. Oh my God, oh my God. And then my dad is just cracking up. But he kept those cars. He traded Chevys, 57 Chevys, showed them in car shows and things. He traded a TV and something else for one of them to get another one. He used to drive across country to pick up one that was, and he was so excited about them, he called me in the middle of the night one night, and I thought he was having a heart attack. So I was really concerned, and he wanted me over there right away, and I got there, and he wanted me to see these plastic things that looked like flames, and they were knobs for on his radio in the car. We love you, Barry.
Yeah. He had anything that was weird. I mean, he had record players in the car,
Yeah,
and he had these 45 records, and you slid it in the slot, and it went in and played this record.
upside
Like,
down.
Yeah,
It was like a magnet, held it up.
all kinds of
Pretty
stuff.
cool.
Yeah.
So we get to tell stories on him because he's not
'cause
here.
he's not here.
Right.
That'll teach him.
Our son and daughter-in-law and two of our grandkids are living with us. And their oldest grandson's about 10. And I told him the other day, I said, we got to come up with a slogan, you and me. I was ordering some stuff on Amazon, and Renee said, you got to quit ordering so much stuff on Amazon. And he's listening to all this, and he thinks it's funny. And I said, okay. So I was looking at something, and I really wanted another tool thing that they had on there. So I put it in my cart, and I told Griffin, my grandson, I said, come over here, just push that button right there. And he says, what happens? And I said, just push it. Just push the button. So he pushed the button, and I said, Grandma, Griffin just ordered a tool for Grandpa. And so then he thought that was hilarious. And he wasn't sure if he was going to get in trouble or not. So I said, our new slogan will be just push the button. So anything that comes up in life, just push the button. Go ahead. So that was the one thing that I would tell him now is
Just
is if you're not sure on something and you want to take a chance, if you got a dream, just push the button.
yeah, that's a good one. Think before you push the button. Think about it. But that's a good one too. We like that one. You have one?
I think future generations, if I were just to talk to them, I think I would tell them that life is really about relationships, not to get hung up on things, and just, keep your family close if it's possible. For some it's not, but do the best you can.
That's good. Always stay in fashion.
We really hope that this will give you some insight into your own family history and
Keep
We-
keep up with it,
keep up with it. Yeah.
and you won't
Yeah.
have to do this for hours and hours.
But thank you for watching us. We love you all.